Good day, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Access Granted podcast. Today we've got a bit something different that we haven't done before. Normally it was workforce management and that type of thing. Today we're going to delve into a bit of estate management with Mr. Luke Rasmussen, the CEO of My Estate Life. Welcome to you, sir.
Man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Henry.
Let's get in. I always start with the where does Luke come from? Where were you born? Give us a bit of history, your upbringing.
Yeah, sure thing. I was born in Durban, born and raised, still there now.
And you're still a shark.
You're still a shark,
Okay.
since the beginning. Done my job big time, but
Yes.
I have gone back to Durban. I live in Salt Rock and Ballito
Of
now.
course, yes.
So
Okay.
very blessed. I'm
Yes.
not going to shy away from that. Born in Durban, Addington Hospital. If you know Durban, you'll know that's alarming.
It is,
Now
yeah.
it is, but when I was born,
Then it was
I'm not going to reveal my age. But
Yes.
it was lacquer when I was born.
Yes.
But now it's gone backwards a little bit. But yeah, born in Addington Hospital. Moved out to Hillcrest. I come from a long line of missionaries. My grandfather was a missionary on my dad's side. My parents also were missionaries, and so that was the household that we were in. And my other side of the family, my mother's side of the family was all business.
Okay.
Since the beginning.
So it's like a nice mix.
It is, yeah. So my grandfather is Eric Tocknell. He ended up bringing the brand. He worked for Lion Tea, and they bought Wimpy to South Africa.
Okay.
So what we know is Wimpy.
Yes,
In
somewhere
the world right now was my grandfather.
Oh,
That
awesome.
was his start. And
That
they
is
also
nice.
branched out to Milky Lane,
Yes.
Juicy Lucy. Do you remember the Golden Egg?
Yep.
So the Golden
Always
Egg
on the
was a part of
highways,
it.
you stop at the Golden Egg when you go on
exactly.
holiday, yeah?
And then that turned into Whistle Stop, which was that brand that they did. And then he also ended up kind of closing that up, selling out of it, and he also got into ministry. So he's also in ministry.
Did you knew him?
He's still alive now. So he's 94 now.
94,
So,
right?
him and my gran are both alive. They live in Durban. And just unbelievable.
And any experience you got from him? You learned a lot from him.
So
right?
he came out of that, obviously that corporate environment.
Yes.
And went straight into ministry work. So they bought a mushroom farm in Hillcrest.
Oh, goodness.
They planted a church there,
Okay.
which is Hillcrest Christian Fellowship.
Yeah.
And then he handed over the church to my dad, who was dating his daughter, his mom.
Okay.
And that church then ended up growing. I mean, they've got a 5,000-seater building out there in Hillcrest.
Yo.
They changed the name to City Hill, so it's a massive church out there. And then my dad later handed that church over to Steve Wimble, who's now the guy who leads it. And Eric, when he handed over, ended up going back into business. Yeah, he ended up working with when Nelson Mandela kind of came in. They started Business Against Crime.
Okay, yes. Yeah,
So he was a part of that in Sandton City and up there. And then after that, they opened up an insurance administrator.
Awesome.
And they built a very successful insurance business called Monitor Administrators. And that was his last project before he retired.
And then your school experience.
Yeah, so my parents, when they started that church, ended up founding a school. I was student number 1, 7 of us.
7, okay.
One of 7 students.
Yes.
And that was just obviously in a shed in a mushroom farm in the back of a...
Did they try to follow any syllabus, or was it life skills?
So I think at that stage it was the birth of IEB at that time, and so it was a part of that syllabus. And then the school grew. By the time I got to... they went up to, was it grade 7 at that stage? So there was only up to grade 5. By the time, every time I moved 1 year forward, they added another year. So there was only grade 1, 2, and 3. And then when I went to grade 2, they added grade 4. When I went to grade 3,
okay. So they made room for you to stay in.
They made room for that run so that they could make their mistakes in the first 2 years before I'd get there. But that school ended up growing rapidly, and they actually, I think it was about 10 years ago, they sold to Kuro. So Kuro bought it now, so it's now Kuro and Hillcrest, the big Kuro and Hillcrest you would know.
It's quite a big school
my
now.
Parents who built it. So I think I was there, and then I went to Hillcrest High, and then after Hillcrest High, in grade 10, I went to Thomas More, which is a school in Kloof. I wanted to be able to do computers and a few other things.
Okay. I had a bit more computing and stuff like that.
And through that kind of whole period of there, I think that all that I really had was, this really entrepreneur-based grandfather. And, my dad was a bit of a pioneer with building that stuff. So that really got into me, and we'd do 1,000 things. I think I'd start up businesses when we were young, and my CTO now, who's my top of the company, Jordan Daniel, was actually my best mate when we were in grade 3 together. So we did this big circle to come back to each other now.
Oh my soul.
And he's our CTO. And we had a little business called JL Foods, and we go and pick the mulberries and sell them out on the streets. And he actually ended up dropping out of school to get into business.
Oh, okay.
And I think he went later and did his tech stuff there. But yeah, that was how much we were kind of trying to start some stuff.
How much was your dad and your granddad using tech those days? Zero. It was all paper. It was.
No, I mean again, you're trying to poke into my age here, boys. You're not giving
I'm just trying.
I'm young, man. I actually can't remember. I said to my wife the other day, I think I had to ChatGPT my age.
Yes.
But I'm
maybe they cannot even find you.
So,
38.
Still young, man.
You're still young, yes.
Yeah, but no, we were talking about the birth of plasma TVs. I mean, that was like.
It was huge TVs.
It was a huge deal. Remember they used to get incredibly hot, and if you stood close to them, your hair would stand up and suck into the TV.
Exactly.
And that was the fanciest thing that we had when we were growing up. And then the first computer, I remember I went to a salvage yard and I found 2 486 laptops.
Yes.
With the ball, and
that's correct.
That was as good as it got. One could only run DOS, and the other one was running, I think, Windows of some sort. And it was so slow that you couldn't even play an MP3, which is brand new.
Yeah.
So you'd have Winamp, and you'd try and get your MP3, but you'd have to convert it to WAV because that's the only thing that could work. But there was no such thing as just stick it in a flash disk and give it to me. We would use like a printer cable to run the network together and play Doom against each other.
Well, at least because of our age, we know what DOS and stuff like that is. Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
We know how to work those ports.
But, I mean, that was we were trying to do everything. I mean, this is dial-up time. Remember the 7 Rand weekend?
Yeah.
You would dial up at the start of the weekend, and you'd put it down at the end, and you'd pay 7 Rand for the whole weekend.
It's the only way my mom and dad could afford internet in our house because I was just wasting that line the whole time.
And then somebody would pick up the phone, and you'd cut it, and they'd say, "Don't answer it again."
Exactly.
They want to make a call, you couldn't make it. So
exactly.
It's hilarious. Anyway.
Then from high school, tertiary education. Did you delve into some tertiary education?
I did. I went to varsity college, study IMM. I didn't last very long. I was playing rugby at the time. Me and my best mates were kind of like really wanted to get stuck into our rugby.
Okay.
He went down to, I think, Legions in Durban, and I wasn't really keen to kind of get that stuck in. So I stayed in Hillcrest Villages, which became a family for me. And I think at that stage, I just ended up wanting to play rugby and get a job. So about 6 months in, I was really taking a look at the emerging insurance industry that my grandfather was moving in.
Okay.
I was hoping that there would be an easy road for me to slip in there. There absolutely wasn't. As you can imagine, a tyrant like that is not going to let you in easy.
Of course.
And so I ended up dropping out of varsity, and I went across and I was a filing clerk in that insurance company.
Okay, yes.
And then over the course of 3 to 4 years, I was a filing clerk, I was a windscreen claims clerk, and then I went into underwriting, and eventually I got to a point where where I was able to get out of that, and I ended up kind of getting my own brokerage.
Yes.
Or partnering with a life insurance broker to run the short-term division.
Yes.
And that grew very quickly, and we did well there. So,
why then from that point go into visitor management? Well, I mean, how did you get from there actually starting then My Estate Life?
Yeah, it's a very cool story. I mean, anyone in insurance will tell you that. I don't know whether anyone's in insurance that doesn't want to get out of insurance. So I'm the lucky one, figured a way out, the golden handcuffs. But no, we had a good business, and I actually ended up bringing my sister in to be my personal assistant.
Okay.
And she started moving into social media management. I mean, this is the birth of social media. When I went to varsity, it was MySpace. That was what came out.
That's correct,
So Facebook had started up, and we ended up moving into that space of wanting to build, some stuff inside kind of Facebook and some marketing stuff around there. And I remember we were doing the marketing for Tiger nightclubs.
Yep.
And we ended up building a couple of tool sets for them. I mean, anyone who's listening to this who remembers that you would send an SMS to skip the queue.
That's correct.
That was all us. We built that SMS skip the queue thing, or we took it over. I don't know what it was, but we had built that little thing. And funny, Jordan actually built that, who's our CTO now. It's that was kind of like the birth of my experience into the tech, and we started going further down that line. And I just remember I remember having a consultant who came into our business and he was selling me a sales funnel.
Yes.
And you know, you and me have seen 1,000 sales funnels.
Definitely.
They're all the same. But it was alarming because he was speaking to me about consulting to Microsoft on the sales funnel and talking a little bit about this emerging tech space. Mm-hmm. And at that stage, it kind of triggered my mind to look at it. And I actually got so interested in it. And you'll learn something about me, Henrik, is that I don't consider things very long once I feel good or a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And at that stage, I felt a good gut feeling. I literally released the insurance brokerage. I took about a month off to really invest and kind of ideate this. We opened up an incubator, got an office, and I started building these kind of blueprint marketing roadmaps for emerging tech businesses.
Okay.
And that opened up the ability for me to consult to Microsoft. So that went very well. The incubator was bringing people in, listening to good tech ideas and helping them achieve those.
Yep.
And that whole incubator kind of opened the opportunity up for us to consult into Microsoft. And so I went across to Joburg and I consulted at Bryanston head office in Microsoft to their emerging businesses inside what they called the BizSpark program.
Yes.
Which was a lot of fun. And at the same time was running the incubator.
Yeah, and giving you also a lot of exposure to other guys also running different ideas and that type of thing.
Well, that was it, you know. I think at that stage I was just looking for the incubator to kind of be this tech thing, and I was focusing more on the people, which was my passion at that stage, and helping people achieve what they were kind of wanting to achieve. And also what I was very good at was finding out how to take really good ideas from these developers and these guys who their mindset was around that and almost helping them monetize that idea.
That's correct.
Helping them kind of find a way to bring revenue into a very cool idea, you know. So we had a lot of guys who had almost like a game or a computer game or a mobile game and had no idea at that stage. This is before subscription services and all that kind of stuff was. And then we would sit down and try and work through with those guys to see how they would monetize that.
I've had that conversation quite a lot. I've got a few friends that I still have lunch with from school. So we try to do it every second Wednesday. And these guys are trained up electrical engineers and that type of thing. So they're very technical minded.
Yeah.
And then I said, I'm the business guy. I'm the guy that can actually take their stuff and sell it. And we always, not argue, but we say, they say, we cannot do anything with people without like you. Because we can think about and we can make ideas happen on technical wise and tech wise and whatever, but we still need your guys that go out and actually sell it and actually can give the value back to you.
Well, that's what you get so invested in the product, you know, that it becomes more about the product. But when you start getting a business mindset, you realize that without distribution, the product doesn't have a future. So,
So now, from the incubating of that, why decide then to go into the direction of my estate?
Yeah, well, in the incubator, there was this idea that came up there to do, how do real estate agents inside housing estates do open houses, you know, because there were these locked up gates, you know. And there was visitor management solutions around at that time. There's people who've been around, you know, a lot longer than us, but we just really weren't exposed to that market. And to be honest with you, not being in the tech space, we had no idea. Same as any layman who hasn't lived in a housing estate would really not know anything about these things. That was us. And I mean, you know, when I look back, we definitely should have done some due diligence. I don't think we would have started, but it's funny because these things happen for a reason.
Exactly.
If I knew who existed in the market, I wouldn't have started my estate lab because I would have thought there's no space for us. But we ended up meeting with these things. We had a really good idea. We thought we were just going to build it and sell it. And then there was no buyer. So we ended up going to these housing estate managers and saying, well, maybe you could use it for your real estate agents. They ended up saying to us, there's a much bigger problem here. You know, there's an opportunity for a system that kind of governs visitors in general for us. And again, we didn't know that these existed. And so we ended up actually building what would be almost like a VIP list for check-in. So taking that knowledge of nightclubs that we
the SMS.
We just literally had a check-in. So there was no such thing for us as a visitor code. You would invite a visitor and the name would go on the VIP list. And when you arrived there, the security guard would have his tablet and he'd look you up on the list. That was how it started.
That's a list,
And then we ended up actually at that stage partnering with the incubator's model was just find people to help it build and you know, share this and go out. And we found a partner to build that MVP. And they built it, and they came into the kind of deal of this, and then I think it was about 8 months later we hadn't sold a single one.
Okay.
We had given away to 2 estates, and they used it and didn't really appreciate it too much, you know. So it was almost doomed to fail at that stage. I was very invested with Microsoft, and my business partner now, Nick. We were since the beginning. We were there, and he was in the incubator. And he was just hammering on this thing while I was on the job. He was like, "This has to be something. It has to be something."
Definitely. Yeah.
And then I remember eventually the plug was pulled from the developers. They said, "We don't want to continue. We don't want to be in this anymore."
Okay.
And we had to basically either pay them or would.
Of course, yes.
And we ended up finding, I think, a little bit of money from somebody who came into the fray. And we bought it out. We ended up having to find another developer, and that was kind of like the scratch in the beginning.
Okay.
That was high risk, you know. We taking on this thing, and we were very blessed to actually find that in the beginning. But again, no working capital.
Yes.
It was simply to pay back these developers, and who was going to take on that risk.
Yeah. Okay, and then you guys were still then figuring out the visitor management side.
Yeah.
But then obviously, as the company grew, that become then estate management. Where was your keystones for My Estate Life growing into what you guys are today?
Yeah, so I mean, in the beginning, we only had enough money to build a certain set of features.
Of course.
And so we had to choose almost like 4 or 5.
Yes.
And we had a long list of everything we wanted.
The wish list is always big.
And the MVP ended up becoming this very kind of simple list of settings or features, and it's funny because today it's one of our keystones in the business is the simplicity, you know, like that everything runs through these kind of core features. And in the beginning, we marketed it that way because we had no money for anything else.
Of course.
There's milestones. The very first part was the emergence of that application. We ended up thinking we got to get traction, we got to get market share, so we gave it away for free.
Yes.
We said anyone can have it, and we were living off of the incubator funding, which was basically living off of my consulting at Microsoft and the other entities that were running in there. And at that stage. I just remember, I think that we were giving away it for free, and people were taking it and then not even using it, not implementing it. And we realized there that when you give something away for free to people, that if they haven't paid something, they don't treat it like it's something of value.
There's no value, yes.
And so we ended up having these, almost these estate managers who got this free tool set, and there was no incentive or due diligence that they had to actually follow through and implement the value. So when we started billing for it, it was a very kind of interesting time. We said at that stage, and we're talking about 9 years ago, I think now. We said, what is a price point that we can implement today that in 10 years would still be the same? You know, so what could we work off of and always be able to figure out? And the price that we set 9 years ago is the same price as the license today. It hasn't changed.
Okay.
So the rand value for a 100-unit estate for the license on My Estate Life in that 2017 era is the same price today.
Okay.
Which is wild. I mean,
that is a very big accomplishment. And because everything is getting more expensive.
Yeah.
And the people think that they assume everything must get expensive, but because of tech, you can actually, and because you guys went with a simplified type of thing, you can also keep that price.
Yeah, it did, and it forced us, that limitation, because it's not expensive, and that limitation forced us to have to drive the sales.
Yes.
We had to make a minimum mandate. And at that stage, we're talking about, right about there, the Microsoft BizSpark program closed down. So therefore, I wasn't doing that anymore. I had to come back to the incubator. And the incubator didn't really have anything that could support what I needed. And so I arrived back into Durban, out of Joburg, and I just basically sunk my teeth into this. And so much so, again, I pulled everything out of the incubator except for My Estate Life. And we purely focused on this business. And I remember that there would be seasons where we would sign one estate and we would cut the money in half, and Nick would take half and I would take half, and we'd go and buy groceries or whatever.
No, of course.
And then and that was the beginning. So we never kind of went out for big investments. We decided that it was going to be a lean startup. And I think that was the stage where we started getting some traction, and we realized this is going to be something. And then COVID.
Yes.
brutal for guys like
for
us.
everybody.
Yeah, for everyone.
Especially startups. I mean, it was not a good.
So we absolutely scraped through COVID. I mean, it was right there. And just before we went into COVID, I realized that I'm going to need to stop outsourcing my development and get my own internal guy. And so I went to Jordan, my mate from school, who was a kind of the IS leader of a big insurance company. And I said to him, come in. And it was more than we could afford at any stage ever.
Of course.
And as we hired him, 2 months later, COVID lockdown happened. And it was kind of like, we were only surviving because we ran our licenses on annual licensing.
Yes.
We had to sign licenses to survive. There was no annuity.
Of course.
Only when you came round to renewal was the annuity.
Yes.
And so there was nothing. And I still remember that he phoned me up and he was like, is this okay? Are we good? Do I need to roll back? And I just said to him, no, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I took a single salary through the entire COVID period.
Yes.
I just kind of hunkered down. I remember that, you have to do what you have to do. We didn't pay VAT. We paid none of the stuff. We drew everyone back to just paying net salaries without worrying. We stripped it out.
Yeah.
And then basically after COVID, we had a big sit down with SARS where we were like, this is how we survived.
Yeah.
Can you take us on a year's journey now to try and, kind of get back on track? And that was, I mean, I think a lot of businesses did that, but we were one of the only ones, I think, who came out of it and said, okay, now we got to get back
we have got a problem here.
We got to get back on the line.
Yeah.
And that was, that was how we survived. But we survived.
That is the big thing. I mean, there's a lot of companies, and I mean, from the access control and security market, there was a lot of guys that had to close, that did not have, they could not survive.
Yeah.
So they had to do something else. So,
And then we survived. And then I think after that, through COVID, we had actually redesigned the whole application. We had time. So we rebuilt the whole thing. We moved off of the original engines into more of a Microsoft stack. And that was just the high security that we wanted.
Yes.
And having our CTO come out of the insurance industry, we realized that we could weaponize that in a way of utilizing how rigid the security of data is in that industry and bring that into this. And so, because of that, we went into a very unique multi-silo system that we have for our states, where each estate is siloed under their own DB channel.
Okay.
And it created this very unique kind of silo of data that actually, is one of our greatest strengths that we have now. But then we started seeing kind of increase in sales and things across that period. So
tell me, the after COVID, there was obviously, in COVID still, when we went out of lockdown and that type of stuff, people start moving around. I mean, you guys then probably had a big boom, because then the rules and regulations had to come in. You cannot just go into a state. You must be screened. You have to do this, and you have to sign something. Was there quite a big boom for you guys after COVID?
I think it was. I think it was. There was an uptick, but the reality was that we never really knew anyone. And
no, of course.
We were so kind of. I remember that Nick and I would go and print 1,000 pamphlets, and we would fly up to Joburg together and rent a little skadonk, and we would drive around and put these pamphlets in every housing estate kind of keyhole, and out of 1,000 pamphlets we'd sign one housing estate, but I think that traction started going. We started kind of getting more and more estates, and I think the interesting part about it was that even at that stage we had to sign 5 estates a month in order to stay alive.
Okay.
And that minimum mandate for us actually ended up becoming our culture.
Yes.
Where if we didn't do 80 estates a year, we were not surviving.
Yes.
And then the kind of first year out of COVID, we probably did 80, and then we did 100, then we did 120, and then it's kind of like and that never really changed. We were almost at that stage not looking and saying, well, what is a good number to sign a year? We were looking at what basically was the requirement for us to stay alive and competing against ourselves almost. And so that created this nature inside our business that still exists today, which is this drive and this relentlessness and almost some other things that are not maybe great business logic. You're a great businessman, Henrik, but we have this thing which is inside our kind of sales manifesto that says that sales are valued higher than retention. And that in any business book, you look at it and you say, no, keeping a customer is less expensive than whatever. But here the logic here is that if you are not inside the market, sitting against the table against a competitor and winning that deal, your product's not the best.
No, definitely, yes.
And so for us, if we place that as the highest value, that when we're sitting across from somebody and we still win, then we believe that our product is the best. And if our product's the best there, then even the current retention customers are still getting the best.
Definitely, yes.
And so that forced us to continuously develop, continuously make it better. And so those logics in a business sense maybe don't make sense, but because of our growth status, because where we are right now and how aggressively we still grow, it's all of these original principles that were implemented at the start.
But because of those principles, today it's also word of mouth playing into your court. That because of that drive, and even your clients can see your drive and can feel your passion for the system. They then start talking to their mates and everybody else that's in the neighborhood. So that is what's driving quite big. Interesting
on that. We've never had a person with the title sales in our business. Never. Not once. And it's because of that element there where we kind of felt that generating that momentum, that generating that word of mouth, that generating that stuff would actually create a desire for people to want to come through. And so even as we started to grow out of those early days, canvassing was there to create awareness, and we trusted that people would come out of the awareness to us and go through. And that's still a very big piece today. We have most of our deals don't come out of canvassing. They come out of people coming to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that speaks words for platforms. And I mean, the fight that you guys had for the survival and where you guys are today, having that word of mouth, people selling for you now. Like you say, you don't have salespeople, other people are selling the business for you. So.
Exactly, And so
Over the years, is there some or technology highlights where you guys came from and where you are now, the different technologies that played a role in, I would say, probably more in visitor management?
I think visitor management's, a good example, if you go right back, was the evolution of the visitor code.
Yes.
You know, the visitor code was never really a thing until it was a thing.
Yeah.
And then somebody decided that this 4 to 5 digit thing, and there was people that were entering the market at that stage that had a long string with letters as well.
Definitely,
Stuff that started coming in there. So that was a key point where we ended up growing out of COVID. I think it was also at that stage. And we realized that, this trend of visitor code, that if we didn't get on this trend, that we would, this whole idea of the book and looking up in the book would just not fly.
Exactly.
And so I think it was, we lost our first customer who went to a code-based system.
Okay.
And that just basically made us stop and go, no, we have to now develop into this key code style system. And we stopped, we went back, we built, and then that was aggressive. Let's change all the way back across all these platforms. And then also, I'm trying to think of some of these key milestones. Another one would probably be VoIP calling. So if you have a visitor that arrives unannounced, people want to be able to phone through. That was obviously something where there was a big visitor management entities out there at the time, like guys like Comb and Click On and all these guys that were there. And they were all doing this calling and we were not. And so then we had to go and figure out the calling and how does that even work? Where do we get an SDK to make soft phones inside our devices? And you evolve, But a lot of the time in our development, we have this thing again inside our development manifesto that says that if we cannot ideate it ourselves and determine that we can be the best at that thing, we don't do it.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things we knew about, but we didn't go into it because we hadn't figured out a way to do it ourselves.
Exactly, yes.
And kind of build our metric for it. Okay. So even with our visitor management, the way we check in and check out and the way that cycle is kind of managed within us is to a certain extent unique in the traditional check and check out.
Yes.
We have more of a journey for every single identity that's on the property.
Yeah.
So that's that's unique, but it's there again. It's because we built our own visitor management stack. In the way that we felt was going to be best for the market.
And the experience is also different. The people see it as a journey. It's not another process that's put in place. It's actually a journey that you can take them through.
And unique data, also unique data, so you don't just get your statistical high-level data, you do get unique data, which is great. But there was a lot of things that came in, but on the visitor management side, I would say it is still very much what it is.
And now, the pins, you had the QR codes coming in afterwards.
And then more autonomous visitor management started coming in. People wanted to be able to go visitor waypathing became a thing around I would say, also around COVID, there was a requirement for us to be able to create a visitor journey, especially in buildings.
Yes.
What elevator can they use?
Exactly.
What thing can they do? Yeah. And so we ended up creating these journeys around visitors, and then automated visitor processing, so arrival and just being able to self-process yourself, and we've gone very deep down that journey now. We've got full Android processing and self-ID scanning and things like that, and so that's I think where it's going to head even further now.
Definitely, yes.
Almost not the elimination of the security guard, but almost the ability for a person to manage their own data in their own interface.
I mean, that is a new thing, because obviously in the estate management and in the visitor management, the POPI Act plays a very big role. Now, a question that I always have, and I think everybody has, why does an estate need to have all of that information for you to enter? Is there a law? Is there why are they asking for, or why are they taking all of this information from us?
You sound like my broadband now, eh?
Well,
sent this article. Yes. No, it's good. But listen, let's talk about the POPI Act. So the POPI Act has been around for a long time.
That's correct.
I mean, I think that
it was more a courtesy.
Yeah.
Previously, but now it's just in law, yes.
But I mean, in its base form, I think that what people are seeing now is they're seeing a lot more noise about it.
Yes.
But the reason why is because it's been around long enough that the regulators are now looking at niche codes of conduct.
Of course.
And so as they start breaking out these niche codes of conduct, one of those now being access control. In its greater form, not just housing estates. That almost that working code of conduct and the first draft of it is exposing a lot of stuff. But when you take a look at the core of the POPI Act, is actually it's beneficial to its nature. And I think that people in our industry don't just see this, especially inside the guys who are inside the big CCTV businesses and stuff like this. They're looking at this. And when you look at the restrictions coming in, you think, man, this is the death of the business. But the reality is that they have to paint everything with a big brush.
Definitely.
You can't suddenly have a code of conduct just for housing estates and a code of conduct just for a business and a code of conduct just for that. You have to paint everything. And the key benefit of it is that I think it's going to force commercials, businesses that are collecting data, estates that are collecting data, anyone to actually assess the reason that they need to collect that data. And the important part about that, Hendrik, is that on our side is that we need to build the tool set that basically allows people to collect data, any data, and then we need to ensure, our responsibility is to ensure that that data is hosted correctly, safely, and is accessible, is completely owned by whoever the customer is, and can be maintained, can be reviewed, can be removed. And it is still, though, the responsibility of the housing estate or the collecting party, be it a business, whatever that is, to justify why they need that. And I think that that's where people are seeing this, almost this disparity, where they go to companies like My Estate Life or some of the other visitor management solutions out there, and they say, you need to justify as to why we need to scan driver's license. There's a huge gap there. When you take a look at, for example, like a housing estate in an affluent area within another security and control environment, they have a very different security profile to a 10,000 unit mega development out like Lion Pride or whatever. Where they've got hundreds of thousands of visitors coming through. Their risk profiles are completely different. So again, in those two situations would be having different SOPs. How long is this property keeping its data for, and what do we need? And how long is this property keeping its data? What do we need? Because I mean, we have situations where housing estates, and we have them at least once a month, where a housing estate will come in and there's been a investigation into a specific person, and we're talking about 3 years. And now suddenly we got to go 3 years back. If they've kept their data for 3Ds, they've got to go 3 years back inside the database. They're going to look it up. And so, in that case over there, if they complied with POPIA and the use case, that data is gone.
That should be gone.
The new code of conduct is suggesting 30 days and then only relevant information. But you see, the thing here about it, Hendrik, is that you take the POPI code of conduct and then you take anything around collecting data, be it processing a new contractor, a new resident, a new visitor, sending the thing through, is that it really doesn't fit into that. So I think that at this stage over here, the balance between security and compliance
that's correct.
is going to have to be on a case-by-case basis. Guys are going to have to do it. And this is important. If you haven't sat down as a housing estate board or even if you're a system integrator, you need to sit down with your customers and say, listen, have we considered this? You know, is there a reason we need to collect this? How long do we need to keep it for? And if it's, for example, there should be layers too. So what we offer at My Estate Life is we offer personal identifier layers. So you can say, after 30 days, remove all the ID numbers.
Yes. Okay.
After another 30 days, potentially remove the names and then the contact details, but keep the residents kind of who invited them, and the resident linked.
It makes it flexible.
And then this you can start to remove the dangerous personal identifiers and start to work it out. But people need to consider this.
Is it mostly because of compliance for people going onto an estate that there might be liabilities if something happens inside? I know there's a security point as well, but I mean, we were all living without the scanning and stuff before, and we all signed Mickey Mouse and whatever in the books. We all know that story. But I mean, I think the question just comes in, why do they want all this information?
It is true, I mean, and I would say that 100% the risk profile's changed over time.
Because they cannot check your risk profile immediately, except if you're in a stolen car, you can connect to those databases and that type of thing. But they cannot do a personal check on me immediately when I mean, especially the pre-registered people. I mean, I go there, I scan my QR code, they don't know. Yes, they've got my info, but they don't do a risk profile on me. So I think a lot of people don't understand that part, that if something did happen, we needed to know who was in the premises for that time.
Well, I think there we go. You're also going to get into very hot water if you start doing active risk profiling on people and saying, we think we need to keep your data. Now you're in very hot water. But what I think is important to remember is that over the last 10 years, the risk profile of South Africa has changed.
No, of course.
Obviously, the crime has gone up and things like that. So there is a necessity for us to have access control. Let's just get that.
Definitely, I mean, otherwise people like us will not be in business.
I think where the risk lies here is that I would say probably 9 out of 10 of your kind of community managers and the people who are tasked with this process of knowing where their data is would probably not be able to give you a very straight answer on exactly where their data has been hosted. And I think that is where people need to upskill. It's a couple of things. Is that number one is, for example, if My Estate Life is the provider, is again, reviewing the data that is being kept there and ensuring that it complies with your retention policies that you've set. Then beyond that is going into the next layer of going, okay, well, how do we access that data? Because that's important. Where is that data kept and the security layers of that data? So, how are we doing that? And then beyond that also is your ability to be able to explain to the layman as to exactly where that data is and then validate as to why you need to keep it. I think that's very important. The Poppy Code of Conduct calls for that. Calls for any person to be able to sit down and say, I want to see how much of my personal information that you are currently holding. And if you can't answer that person back, there is hot water there.
Of course, yes.
And so you need to be able to find that. And then beyond that is to stand on that strong. And so, you can, most housing estates, sitting down, creating a policy around this, determining what might be best for you, and then creating a new visitor disclaimer and an access process for people to be able to query this. And that's something that we help a lot of our properties with is this process of whether it's creating a video, whether it's creating a nice little system or something that just helps explain to people as to what the purpose of this is. But the archaic system is just to go, it is what it is, and we need to keep it. That's not going to fly. In the new popular laws and stuff like that, that's not going to fly. You're going to have to be able to, as a property owner, as a management person on property,
look at it.
You're going to have to be able to explain as to exactly why you're collecting that data. And if you can't, review the policies.
We've just been through quite a lot of this because we obviously, as an international company, a lot of our online platforms is hosted in different countries, Singapore, Mexico, wherever. So I had to go through this whole POPIA thing if I want to launch any of that in South Africa. And it was, it's stacks of paper you have to go through, and you have to, contracts I have to sign with my own head office so they understand if you use our South African, or you are hosting the South African data, you cannot do anything else with it. it has to be on a safe platform, and it has to comply with our security rules that we have in South Africa. But obviously the precursor to that was the GDPR. So for us, for South Africa, it was quite easy because then the international company already, they understand the GDPR. So if you go that route, there's one or two things that's different in the POPI Act, but most of it is actually the same. But at the end of the day, it is quite a big thing. And going forward, not even just visitor management and estate management, it's access control, software, time attendance, biometrics. That is why a lot of the people internationally is moving away from facial recognition, going to palm recognition and that type of thing, because they don't want to connect a photo to a person, because they might get into hot water if they do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that is now if you go into a government type of thing.
No,
commercial use, yes, there's still flexibility, but there is already countries that said maybe we need to have a look at the different biometrics, maybe go back to fingerprint, palm recognition, anything like that. But we've been through this exercise, and it cost me about 2 months to get everything signed, because our platforms, like I said, is hosted in different countries. For this platform, I need to get it signed in Singapore. For that one, I need to sign it somewhere else.
I mean, there's a thing inside the POPI, I think it's Section 13 around there, which talks about
that's
data
correct,
crossing the...
I have to have a controller agreement with them, because they are in charge of the keeping it safe and everything. I'm not in charge, but I'm the middleman there.
Yeah, so, exactly. But it's massively interesting. I think at this stage, also, if you ask anyone who's worked for a company from England or a company from America, that South Africa is not running the POPI Act.
Definitely
because
not.
If you worked in these businesses, emailing itself is a nightmare.
It is.
Because you get blocked for almost everything. I remember working with Microsoft, you could barely send an email out, because if it had an attachment, there was 100% a POPI. There was a POPI violation somewhere inside that thread. And so I think that for us, we need to see the benefit of it, is that it is trying to protect us, and it's about applying it the best way you can.
And if something happens, then you have to go down the line and let everybody know. I mean, anybody can make a mistake. I've sent the wrong email to the wrong Luke before, or the wrong Hendrik you sent or something, and it happens. And that is actually a violation of the POPI Act.
Yeah, it is.
You have to look first before you press the send button.
But the violation starts before. The violation starts with the data that was being emailed in the first place.
Yes, exactly.
So I mean, that's where it's difficult. But as I say, I think that instead of being fear mongers.
Yes.
I think that the important part is to look at this and go, okay, well, this should trigger an action.
It is.
Trigger the note of looking at it, not as a property manager and going, well, I'm about to lose all of my data. Is look at it and go, okay, well, this is actually gonna help us protect ourselves.
It is educating the end user, because the guys do not know out there what questions to ask, and they are fully through their rights to actually ask what information do you have of me?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, every day we get these spam calls. Sometimes you have to answer it because you are expecting a call from somebody.
Cell phone numbers now.
And now it's cell phone numbers. And then all of a sudden you ask them, but why are you phoning on behalf of someone? But I mean, I think the fear mongering going into everybody's writing about it.
Yes.
It's everywhere, and you see these big different guys writing about it on the internet, and they say
articles everywhere now, videos everywhere.
If you've got access control, if you've got a visitor management, and you have to, and it's the end of this, like you said. But at the end of the day, it also educates the end user to be able to ask the questions, and everybody must just comply. It's
my advice when reading all of those articles is that at the end of the article it says call us.
Then you know.
You read it with a pinch of salt. But anyone who's looking to upskill on that,
definitely,
there is a lot of material out there. The actual code of conduct that's come out is, obviously it has to be incredibly restrictive.
Definitely.
But upskill, very important, and assess your current process. If you have any collection of data, where it's in a contractor process where you're doing a paper form. If you've got a resident process where there is a paper form or a resident thing where you're scanning an ID book or something like that for those things. All of those processes now have to be considered. The ability for you to be able to identify as to wherever, if it's in paper format or in a computer format or in a cloud format, to know exactly where personal identifiers are sitting in your property.
Exactly.
And if you don't know that, it's time for an audit. It's time to go back. It's time to review everything. And
do your due diligence.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you have to, because you have to.
And also challenge your cloud providers. My Estate Life is one of many visitor management systems.
Of course.
Clients need to challenge guys like us and ensure that their data is siloed, that
Yes.
it's not being put in a cache somewhere, and it's not being kept for a global reason of some sort. I think with the law sets, that's what's going to come out of it. The beneficial part is that also the list of third parties that might have access to something. If we are managing resident information and pushing the data down to a ZKT access control system, those are 2 points of contact.
Definitely.
But we can go we can all day on this.
No, definitely. Yeah. But it is a pertinent question because people are starting questioning it. Tell me, the big word in the technology industry these days is AI. Now, AI in estate management. What do you think about that? Is there application in there?
Well, I think AI is fantastic. I think that the benefit of it, like everyone else, is I think that this is an unbelievable technology. I think that there is a hype wave that is already come, and it's already on us, and it's already going through us.
It's already gone, yeah.
And I think that it's going to even get worse, with that. And the issue with hype around these kind of things is that people feel they missed it. And so what you end up doing is that you end up getting somebody diving into ChatGPT or whatever it might be. And I used this example speaking at the recent annual residential conference, where I had a whole bunch of, I think it was about 120 housing estates get together. Yes. And they asked me to speak on this topic. And one of the things I said inside there is that if you have, for example, a secretary at a housing estate, and she has opened up ChatGPT, 90% of the time she's used her own Gmail address of some sort, or whatever. Correct. That's what she's using for it. And then in the same sentence where she's asked if this cut on her dog is a problem, and I've got this mole on my back that's itchy, whatever, then underneath that is, please take this Excel spreadsheet of resident information and make it clearer for me. What you've got here is you've got an exposure. You've got a person. Is there ever going to be something that leaks out of that? Maybe not. But ultimately, what you've got is that you've got a personal login with personal identifiers of something or some form of data that is ingested inside there, and you've got an overarching due diligence and management of a housing estate that has no idea that that's going on.
Exactly.
They're just very excited at the nice fancy reports that they're seeing.
Yeah.
And so I think that at that stage, that is the risks there. It's 100% the risks.
Yeah.
And I think that from a level of assistance and a level of work assistance and stuff, I think that AI is revolutionary.
Yes.
It is changing the way that we work in our business.
Definitely, yeah.
It's rapidly helping us across the board in all of our front-end assistance stuff. In terms of the coding side, we don't utilize it as much into our DB because we are the human-centric nature of our security is just so powerful.
Yes.
And the way that we run our security tokens and stuff, that it's, we don't want to influence that. Yeah. And if you know anything about the way that whole fast development works, it's if you don't wield it well, it's dangerous.
Yes.
So my whole advice here is that it's, if you're not learning it, learn it. If you're not using it, use it.
Yes.
However, if you're a business owner like yourself of a team, and you don't have an AI policy in your business that determines how people are allowed to use it for working senses, then I think that's a risk. What I suggest actually for business owners is that every single person inside your company, underneath the guidance of a policy, should actually be kind of capturing as much data as possible about what they do.
Yeah.
Because I think that in the future is going to allow us to be able to build better support structures around them and have somebody who does one thing be able to do a lot of things.
Yes.
So I think it's incredibly powerful. I do think that we're running head down without looking forwards, and I think that there needs to be some guardrails, but keep running. But put guardrails up. So what we've done in our business is that we brought in a really good policy where it kind of contains a little bit and helps people operate within those things. What can I use AI for? What can I not use AI for? What agents am I allowed to build? What am I allowed to do? But I mean, I recently sat inside I don't know, I can't remember what it was, but it was a big session with a big person. And one of the guys stood up and was telling the story about how his bookkeeper had built these 6 agents and was canvassing out these leads or doing all this kind of stuff. And it was a real wow moment.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, as a business owner, you realize that you've got a person who's employed as a bookkeeper who is taking who knows what in that business sense and canvassing out and utilizing something larger. So without guardrails and restrictions, you ultimately have people who are not skilled into something. There was a fantastic article written about this, which took a person vibe coding and took a developer vibe coding. And the output was dramatically different.
Definitely, yes.
So, because it's all about the prompt. So I think that's, for me, that this is one of the most incredible technologies out, and everyone should be investing in some way into their business for it, but ensure that you're running the right policies.
And I mean, the technology also these days are allowing us to run local models. It doesn't have to go out to the ChatGPT. So you can use the model locally if you've got the infrastructure for it. And I think that is where most of the businesses are going anyways, like access control, visitor management, all of that. You don't have to do a third-party connection outside where you have to share any data, keep it inside your own system, and then plus minus you are safe.
Yeah, I would, if I was to give you the good, the bad, the ugly off the top of this thing, to wrap it up there, I would say that the good right now is that businesses should be investing in this, in their infrastructure, in their customer-facing support, in their sales, in their canvassing, in their administration. Let me tell you something, and I promise you right now, something like filling in a form is going to feel alien in the next 2 years. Because of how much these things are going to get into assisting a user through a process. Onboarding in a traditional sense of just completing a form or an application form will feel alien. It already does to a certain extent. You sit at the doctor's office and you have a doctor who's operating forwards, and you have another doctor. You sit down and you get this piece of paper and there's 3 pages and you're filling in the same details 6 times. It's a nightmare.
It is a big nightmare.
And suddenly it feels alien. That same process didn't feel alien a few years ago. So this is what I think. So that's the good. I think every business should be investing across the board there. And especially inside gathering knowledge, because that knowledge will be valuable later. If you're not gathering knowledge right now, you're going to start when it's too late. Start gathering knowledge. Get a really good knowledge gathering LLM if you're getting it in Notion or anything like that, where you're actually literally getting your people to start jotting down everything they're doing and what they're learning every day. That will be valuable later. And then the bad for me, I would say, would be going back to that beginning on AI without guardrails can be very dangerous. And people who are chasing the hype train are going to dive headfirst into something, and they're going to see it as being this wow moment. And without those guardrails, there will be poppy infringements left, right, and center. There will be, a person who, without realizing it, has put Claude code on their PC, and now your entire infrastructure of business is now being exposed to something else out here, and some agent is running and throwing it out there. Who knows what? That's the bad. I would say the ugly for me, which I think is in its infancy now and is coming up, is going to be that when we were younger and we started this business, it was inside that age of anyone doing an application online or a piece of software. Kind of like, you were the dream of every, kind of investment agency. And if it was good, it was going to go big, and everyone wanted to build the next unicorn. Nowadays, I had a guy sitting with me in my office the other day who came up with a phenomenal software as a service idea. And in his roadmap, he was like, ideate it, find a developer, build it within 1 year, then start to sell it or whatever. And I just said to him, I said, but if you're not building this within a week, you're dead. And so, this is where you take a look at the stock exchange, and all of those big software as a service applications are taking a hammering because people are building their own utilities. So why do I put this in the ugly category when that's such a benefit? Because I think it is. I would say, because I think that one of the greatest risks that we have right now is going to be one of the greatest benefits is fast development. One of the greatest risks is also fast development, where the market may, in the next year or so, be flooded with tool sets that have come out of something that's been built in an hour. You will have, let's say, for example, that you're a trustee on a housing estate, or let's say you're a manager of a property, and you're sitting with your 5 trustees around the table talking about the business. And suddenly they're looking at My Estate Life, and one trustee at some stage is going to go, I can build that. Because with a good prompt, you can build it. And the reality is that he's not a developer.
No,
he's a accountant for some accounting firm, whatever. And he can try and get that out there. But I think that there is a greater risk inside that fast development. So, do I want fast development? Absolutely. I think there is going to be a new wave of emerging entrepreneurs that is going to just explode, and it would be one of my key elements to young people. But really, I think that from business leaders, from people inside the housing estate industry, from stuff like this, you need to actually keep your eye very carefully on fast development.
Of course.
Now more than ever is the time to ensure that good due diligence is being done on whatever software that you're taking, and ensuring that things like database management and tokenization and good security layers are all being invested or investigated in a due diligence format. So
that is extremely good advice, because I mean it is a powerful tool, but the guys need to understand it can also be a very dangerous tool.
Yeah.
Tell me, getting into the last bit of the podcast now, the mentoring side. Talking about it this is what the podcast is about. It's actually getting the young people excited about our market. And I mean, it is such a vast market. I was talking in the beginning about just people doing workforce management and all that. We're talking about estate management right now. But how do we get young people excited getting into our market? Because I don't think there is people thinking that this is a market for them. How do we do that?
I mean, I love what you're doing. I've watched a couple of your podcasts, and I just think it's fantastic on how exciting you're getting about these young people.
Definitely.
And I always have been too. And so this is a great topic. For me, I think that, well, let's take a look at what really the emerging youth should be investing into right now. I think that you've got two options. If you're creative, if you've got an ability to be an ideator or an entrepreneur, I think everyone has some level of that. I think that you should be investing heavily into your knowledge around the AI space and your knowledge around what's possible. I think that there are hundreds of thousands of niches that are desperately looking for somebody to build something very simple. And I'll tell you right now is that if I took a look at my estate life around there, I would have 100 ideas of niche spin-offs that we could move into very quickly. And that's where I think that the emerging market is going to be very exciting, because I think that utilizing things like ZKT, you could build hundreds of different opportunities out there. So that would be my first thing. I would say that somebody else who's not inclined that way should be investing into things along the lines of developing your own skill sets, because really the job market is changing. The thing about that, and this is where I get really passionate about people developing their ability to sell. I think that selling and your ability to market something and be able to sell something or be interested in something is actually one of the greatest assets that you can develop in yourself. And I think that there's often this thing where you got salespeople and non-salespeople. I think that actually everyone can be taught how to be a salesperson, as long as you understand how to weaponize your own personality and not shy from it, and to go inside there. And then I think the last thing about that would be really the new generation coming out now has got so much access to information, so skilled that as all the guys, we look back at it and we call them almost cocky, But really, what I've found inside sales is that cocky nature, that truly believing in something, is actually one of the greatest assets that you can have. I think that there's going to be a new wave of entrepreneurs coming out. Then specifically for our industry, I think that, I think firstly, I think there needs to be a layer of upskilling in our industry.
Definitely, yes.
If somebody can come out and build a phenomenal e-learning platform of some sort that can just start skilling people up across our industry, I just think that we are sorely lacking the ability or the greater knowledge of our industry. For me, I think that coming into that space of system integrators, of guys getting out there, learning a skill set and getting something physical, I think there is a gain. There is a lot of opportunities to come out, and especially inside the space, which I would encourage anyone who's looking to start a system integrator or start a business selling something, is create your own product. Create something that is unique to you. You might be selling ZKT and supercharging it with a My Estate Life solution on top. Your solution is not ZKT and My Estate Life. It should be the solution under your brand. It should be your specific product. And I think that system integrators currently right now should be investing into those niche products, those kind of those package deals, and the interfaces as well. I think even system integrators now that just have a basic WordPress front-end website, they should be investing into online e-commerce style, proper, engaging, customer journey based websites. And I think that because what you'll have is that you'll have an established system integrator and you'll have an emerging system integrator. That the disparity is just black and white. And this guy's sitting on 600 customers. This guy's sitting on 10. But online, he looks like he's sitting on a national business, and this guy looks like he's sitting on a mom and pop shop.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that for me is going to be a trigger for the current system integrators, and the emerging market is going to come out with some phenomenal things.
I think also something that I want to hook on to that you were touching, that there's so many spin-offs that can come from your platform. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just think, how can I add to that? Yeah. Come to the business leaders, come to the guys that's building the different platforms and stuff, and come talk to them and say, listen, I've got this idea. Let's work together on that. And because you've got also resources from the other side as well. You don't have to always just do it all by yourself, because it's a daunting thing. I mean, you were talking about the fights that you guys had to just stay alive. You don't have to go through that. You can actually come and ask the guys and say, I've got this idea, can we connect it to your system? And say, by all means, let's do that.
Well, I think it's that notion as well, is that if I went back to the start again, if I was to start over, I don't think that I would be able to develop my estate life as it is now and be successful, because I think that it's just ultimately, I don't want to say it's the death of software as a service, but to a certain extent it is. Emerging software service. I think there are established businesses that are integrating AI and things like that. Definitely, that we are and becoming integrate solutions that are expanding rapidly.
Yes.
But what I would do is I would find niche markets, niche opportunities.
Exactly. Yeah.
We were talking about it earlier, around digital screens, and the Digimax stuff. It's like there is a niche that could fork out of that. And I think with the fact that people are able to build things so fast, the development of niche products is actually going to become something again where we came from this. You'll think about 10 years ago. We came from the Avo apps, these super apps, the monsters, the big ones that do everything. And the reality is these days is actually, with how quick development is coming, is these niche apps.
Exactly.
These niche solutions. There's one things that fulfill that one problem. And I think that's what I would do if I was starting again, is I would actually not attack it from a super app level. I would come inside and start to just trigger out some niches and then integrate to different solutions.
Last point, if you have to go back to I always say 90 or 20 years old, I probably want to take that back to 18 years old. If you can go back to your 18-year-old Luke, what would you tell him? What is the life advice you'll give him?
Oh, geez. I would probably do it the same, but I'll be honest. I'm one of those guys where it's like I never want to regret any decisions. I've been through a lot of crap in my life, but, and been through the sewer of it. But man, I would give the same advice to myself as I'd give to any person out there. Is that one of the greatest things you can develop in yourself is grit, resilience, and a relentless nature. Once you set your mind to something, don't give up.
Yes.
Put your head down, drive for it hard. I've had seasons in my life where I was sitting inside my little flat, and I had 5 days of no electricity in the dark because I had no money for that. Exactly, and you make a sale and you get it back again. Without grit and resilience and a relentless nature to me, I was sitting inside there thinking to myself, gee, this is going to be so lacquer when I got the Bentley sitting outside my house,
Yeah.
That's a stupid thing to think when you're in that situation.
No, of course, yes.
But I'm convinced that that's what I'd go back. I would probably go back to myself and just say, hey, you're doing good. Keep that head down.
Yes.
Keep that relentless nature.
You've got this.
Stop worrying what other people are thinking about you. There's a great, book. It's a bit of fluff to it, but Mel Robbins writes a book called Let Them.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I read it. It's a very easy read, but it's this whole notion of, I think I would say to myself, is stop worrying about everyone else. Just if they want to have things to say against you, if they want to feel like you're offending them, whatever it is, let them, and just focus on your own journey, focus on your grit and your relentless nature. And I'll promise you that goes a million miles. So, yeah.
Awesome. On that inspiring note, I want to thank you for being here and for your time and everything.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks, Henry.
And everybody watching, thank you very much for your time. I'll see you on the next episode.
Love it.
Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, Flo.
Thank you.
Love it, man. How's that?
No, that was great.